Hello and welcome to APM YouTube Live. We're here in the YouTube studios and we're going to talk a little bit about the APM program and answer your questions both about the program and the admissions and interview process. This is a live event, so please put questions in the chat. We have APMs answering your questions, and then we're going to gather some of those questions to answer at the end of the program. So I'm Scott. I work in the Mountain View office. Fun Google fact about me is I've been to over 20 Google offices all around the world.
I'm Jocelyn. I work in the San Francisco office, and the fun fact about me is that in high school I got the superlative most likely to work at Google.
I'm Eric. I work in the Mountain View office, and one fun fact about me is that I've won a Google Super Smash Bros. Melee tournament.
So a quick overview of the agenda. We're going to go over what is an APM, a little bit about the APM program, and the application process. And then we're going to wrap it up with some Q&A with us, answering your live questions.
So what is an APM? APM stands for Associate Product Manager, or an Early Career Product Manager. And being an APM is this opportunity given to students and recent grads who are interested in product management and have some technical experience and technical background. Being an APM means that you're essentially responsible for bringing some product or feature to launch. Now, what exactly are those responsibilities? In short, it's kind of everything. So first you need to know the product and the user. Really understand the product you're working on, what works well, what doesn't, what can be improved. You also need to understand your user base. What are they trying to do with your product? What are their needs? Not only do you need to understand your product, but you're also the visionary for your product. So you're setting long-term, maybe 5 or 10-year strategy. You need to understand the marketplace, your competitors, and where you see your product being in the future. Not only that, but you're in charge of execution, making sure that your product actually comes to launch. Internally, what this means is that you're working with a bunch of different teams. You're working with engineers probably daily, but you're also working with UX designers, user researchers, policy, legal, business analysts, whoever you need to work with to make sure that your product is set up for success. And finally, you're also just an employee at the company. You're respectful, you communicate across teams and across product areas to make sure that the vision of your product is well communicated across the company. So really, above all else, you are the person in charge to make sure that your product is successful.
So the structure of the APM program is to invest in both the personal and professional development of young product managers. We hope that APMs and APM alum will go on to do extraordinary things at Google and beyond. And we've established the program to help us achieve that goal. Some quick facts about the APM program. The program was started in 2002 by Marissa Mayer. Back then, the majority of product managers were coming from MBA or a business or marketing background. Marissa thought that at Google, to be a successful product manager, one needs to understand the engineering and technology behind our products. So she had this thought of hiring students with strong CS or technology background and then teach them the soft skill and business skills required to be a product manager. Thus was the start of the APM program. 17 years later, the program has grown from just a handful of APMs to 40 to 45 full-time APMs per year. The APMs rotate through 2 different products to get a taste of different working styles, different teams, and different challenges. The internship is a mini version of the APM full-time program, where 40 to 45 interns work in a 12-week summer internship and get a taste of what the product manager career is like. The APMs come from very diverse backgrounds, and many of us took different paths to end up at Google. Just amongst the 3 of us, I think we had very different experiences before coming to Google. For example, I studied applied math and computer science in college, but I was very focused in business, pursuing various finance and consulting internships in college. However, I was always really passionate about technology, and I spent 10 to 15 hours a week on campus working at startups, as well as running an e-commerce site for our school souvenir store. After college, I joined McKinsey & Company and became a business analyst. I had the opportunity to work at various tech companies in the Bay Area and saw PMs working on the ground to build and launch products. This made me realize that I want to be beyond the advisory role and actually own and launch my own products, which was why I applied to the Google APM program and was fortunate enough to join the class of 2018 as an APM.
So my path to Google started as a computer science major in college. That's how I really got interested in technology. And then throughout my college years, I kind of got more interested in product management and the business side through starting my own company. I founded an app development agency, and from there we both worked on building apps, but also doing kind of the product definition and team leadership aspects, which I really enjoyed. I was also a TA, so I was able to work on both technical skills and also communicating and leading teams through that. In the summer of my junior year, I did the APM internship where I worked on Google Search. I just had a great time. So I knew I wanted to come back and work at Google full time. I applied to the APM program and got in. So in this past year, I was working in Google Cloud, and now I've rotated over to Android.
So I also did computer science in college. I think the two main extracurriculars I worked on were debate and also TAing the intro computer science classes through sophomore to senior year. And that was an incredibly rewarding experience. My first internship experience was actually the engineering practicum internship at Google. And I was really interested in being a software engineer, and I just heard about what product management was during my internship. So I was curious. I applied for the APM internship the next summer, and I did an APM internship in New York, also in Search. And I just loved the day-to-day job of being a product manager. So after graduation, I applied again for the APM full-time position in 2017. And my first rotation was on ads, and my second rotation was on Search, and now I'm a PM on Search.
So as soon as the APMs arrive at Google, you're instantly included in part of the broad APM and APM alumni community. The APM program provides various levels of mentorship to help us feel comfortable in our day-to-day job. Everyone gets assigned an APM buddy in the beginning of the program, who is an APM that is in the class year above you. I often ask my APM buddy silly questions I might have about my job, as well as any day-to-day tactical advices she might have. Every APM also gets assigned an APM alumni advisor, who is a senior PM that has been through the APM program. I speak to my APM alum advisor about challenges I faced in my job, as well as longer-term career planning questions that I might have. Every APM is also matched with a management coach who stays with you for the rest of your Google career, even after you graduate from the program. I work with my manager coach on different skills related to my job, such as presenting to a large audience, building relationships within my team, or communicating with clients outside of my team. And lastly, as an APM, you're automatically connected to all the APM and APM alumni at Google or beyond Google, and this network will stay with you for the rest of your life. The APM program also runs various events throughout the year to foster the APM community. Every APM is super excited about the APM trip, which happens between the first and second year of your rotation. During the trip, we visit 4 different countries, conduct user studies in different cultures, visit companies, as well as presenting our own Google products to the local Google offices. Every winter and spring, we run industry-focused mini-trips, which are proposed by individual APMs. We'll visit a city in the United States and talk about a theme that we're interested in while visiting companies in that city. Throughout the year, there are various speaker events where we invite PMs within and outside of Google to talk about a particular skill or to share their general career wisdom. And lastly, whether it's self-organized or sponsored by the program, there are numerous bonding events throughout the year, from small birthday parties to a large ski trip to Lake Tahoe every January. The APMs develop close friendships with each other and bond in this broad community.
So now that we've provided an overview of the program and your responsibilities as an APM, and look at the great opportunities you have as an APM, we're going to go over how we hire and what we're looking for in APM candidates. So both full-time APM and APM internship roles are available. Applications are available now. So please apply. And for both positions, please include your resume and your transcript. So here's a list of things that we're looking for in APM candidates. By no means is this a prescriptive list, and we don't expect you to have done all of these things well in college. This is just kind of a list of experiences and opportunities that APMs have done in the past during their college years. So when we're hiring, we're looking for evidence of having a technical background, leadership and experience, and the ability to do the PM job day to day, so the PM soft skills. So we're looking for candidates who have a good academic standing and have a solid background in CS. So either through doing a computer science major, a minor, or doing relevant coding experience or coursework. We're also looking for leadership experience. So a great way to show that is previous internships in tech or leadership in extracurricular activities. We're also looking for an entrepreneurship mindset. So starting a company or working on a side project is a great way to demonstrate that. And finally, as Eric talked about, APMs are really leading the team and driving products. So to work well with the team, we're looking for people who have strong communication skills. And also, we work on multiple projects at a time. So the ability to multitask and drive results is really important. And then finally, product managers define the roadmap for the team and the long-term vision. So we're looking for the ability to think strategically. And then finally, we're looking for candidates that have a passion for technology. They're really excited about using technology to build Google products that help users all around the world.
So what is the interview process actually like? So after your resume is reviewed by a recruiting team, your interview process begins with one phone interview with a PM. And if that goes well, then two things happen. One is that you get a written assignment that you'll complete in a few days. And then you're also invited back to campus for your next round of interviews. So this is different if you're an intern or full-time. If you're an intern, you'll have 3 total interviews. 2 of them will be with PMs, and 1 will be a technical interview. And for full-time, you get 5 total interviews. 3 of them are with PMs. There's 1 technical interview, and then 1 other PM interview with someone who's more senior. So after this first round of interviews, after you've completed the interviews, all of the decisions and all of the interviews will go to the hiring committee, and they'll review your packet. If you're applying for full-time, then you'll also get your final senior level PM interview after your packet's gone to the hiring committee once. Then it goes back to the hiring committee and they deliberate and then they make a decision, review your offer, and hopefully extend you your offer. So there's a lot of different tips and tricks that you could do to prepare for your interviews. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but this is just something that the APMs and PMs have put together that we found helpful while we were preparing for our own interviews. So one of the first things you could do is read a PM interview prep book. So one example is Cracking the PM Interview by Gail McDowell, but there are other resources out there. And I think this is really helpful because it gives you context of what PM interviewers are actually looking for. You'll also see example PM interview questions, example answers, and kind of just understand what the actual content of the interview will be like a little bit more. You should also think about products that you really like or you dislike. What would you change about them? Maybe it's a feature improvement. Maybe it's a really grand strategic pivot or difference that you make in some product. It's also a good idea to familiarize yourself with the Google products and also brush up on your technical skills. Again, for both the internship and the full-time APM program, you will have a technical interview, so it's good to freshen up on things like system design or algorithms, things that are likely to come up in your technical interview. Another thing that you could do is skim tech press for the last couple of months and just be aware of what's going on in the tech world. One resource that we have that I think is really helpful is g.co/APM. We've built this external facing site that goes into more detail about the APM program. So if there's any details that you've missed in this presentation, feel free to check that out. But there's also just a lot more about what all the APM program encompasses. There's quotes from current APMs, there's more content there. So it's a really good resource if you're trying to understand a little bit more about what the job would entail. If you happen to know someone at Google or know of someone at Google, it's always a good idea to reach out and just ask them about their day-to-day experience in the company and also what their interview experience was like. And finally, just practice interview questions. One good resource is the pminterview.com. It's a site that flashes one PM interview question at a time. The more you practice questions, the more comfortable you'll be during your phone screen and your on-site interviews.
Cool. I think that concludes our presentation part of the YouTube Live today. As a reminder, applications are currently live, so please go to google.com/students and search for the Associate Product Manager program. and upload your resume and transcript. While we were talking, Ashley and Sam, two APMs, were collecting some questions from the audience in the back, and I think now we'll go through some of the top questions you guys might have.
Okay, so Yuri says, how does an application stand out from the rest in the interviews? So I think just the ability to demonstrate those skills that we're looking for and kind of highlighting things as the impact that you've done. So if you were in an internship, what did you do in the internship and how is that important? How do you demonstrate leadership skills? I think really making it easy for us to go through your experiences and see exactly what you've done and how that relates to the criteria we talked about earlier.
How did your Google internship prepare you for your full-time role? So Eric, I think you did a Google internship, right?
Yeah, so I think the internship was really helpful. One thing that I thought was really helpful is just familiarizing myself with internally what the company is like. Just understanding, how engineers and UX designers and everything works together. But I think the biggest thing that prepared me for the full-time role is just the amount of responsibility you're given, even as an intern, is very high. You have a lot of support and you have a lot of people to ask questions, but you do get a lot of responsibility, and the internship itself, you actually are, making a relatively large impact on whatever product you're making. And so it really gets you into that mindset of being responsible over your product.
Sasha asks, what is one of your favorite projects you've worked on as an APM? So my project's not announced yet, so I can't share the details, but my favorite project involves a lot of design work. So in college, I was very interested in some of the creative and artistic work. And in this project, I actually got to sit with the designer and sketch out some of my product ideas on paper, as well as making mocks with some of the creative brainstorming. And I thought, I didn't expect myself to be in such a creative role, and I really, really enjoyed that aspect of the project.
I think one of my favorite projects when I was working on search is we launched a new experience to help users find jobs on search. And I think it was really cool to have the impact of helping people all around the US and around the world find jobs that they're looking for.
One of my favorite projects, when I was on the ads team, we launched a new type of ad for mobile app developers for pre-registration ads. And it was really cool because it was something that was really popular in the Asia Pacific region, but not as much in the US. So it gave us opportunity to travel to Tokyo and Seoul, meet with advertisers and app developers there to really understand what they were doing and what the product need was. And I thought stepping out of my comfort zone in that way is just a really awesome opportunity.
So Vikas asks, what's the process of having a product idea to executing it and getting it out the door? So I think a lot of these ideas come from within the team. People are always thinking about the project, and we have engineers, designers, PMs all contributing ideas. From there, I think a really important PM job function is prioritizing what we're going to do. So we have all these ideas, we need to figure out what to do next. And once we go through that and we have an idea of what our roadmap looks like and how features fit into that, we work on developing a PRD, or a product requirements doc, that lays out exactly how the experience is going to work from the user perspective and what kind of technology is required to fulfill that goal. From there, we're spending time designing, engineering things, kind of identifying roadblocks and unblocking them. And then when we launch, we'll sometimes launch in a particular region and then scale it out, or sometimes we scale and launch the entire world, which is very exciting.
Yash asks, what's your day-to-day like as a PM? So it really varies by the project and even by the day, but I can walk through like a typical day. So my team normally has a stand-up every Monday where all the engineers and designers and PMs come together and talk about our plans for the week. After that, I normally have a leads meeting with the TL, so the tech lead in my team, as well as the designer lead in my team. And then we walk through some important milestones we want to reach for my product this week. Then I have some time to sit down and work on, as Scott described, the PRD for my product and add to the PRD according to some feedback we got from the user. I often have one-on-ones in the afternoon, so I tend to get some personal time with my team members to get to know them better or just talk about what their concerns are on the product. And then I normally wrap up the day with answering some emails and checking out some bugs that other teams might have sent us on the products that we're maintaining. Yeah.
Trish asks, hi, what is the most difficult part of working as an APM? So I think we might all have different answers. I know one of the things that was challenging for me especially is just kind of having the confidence to know that you know enough to really be the leader of your product. You kind of join in, you might be working in a product area that you just don't know anything about, and you're expected to bring something to launch or be responsible for something that you didn't know what it was a week ago. And so there's a lot of learning that you'll do on your own, but also collaborating with your peers, asking a bunch of people questions, and everyone's really, really receptive to you trying to learn as fast as possible and asking as many questions as possible. But it definitely does feel awkward when you're in your first couple of weeks and you feel like all you've done is ask questions. You might feel a little self-conscious about that, but that was one of the hard parts for me. But it is really worthwhile because the faster you get up to speed, the more you can really be super helpful to your team.
Yeah.
So Brian asks, do APMs give input on what projects they're placed on? So yes and no. For the first rotation, that job is assigned by the APM committee, but you have some feedback. They will hand out a survey that says, generally, do I like working on larger teams or smaller teams, like consumer-focused or enterprise-focused teams? And from there, they try to match you as best you can. But in the second rotation, you actually find a team. So there's a long list of available roles that gets published in the springtime, and then it's the APM's job to go meet with these teams, find out what they're interested in, find out what type of job they're looking for the next rotation, and then they'll move on to that team.
I just want to add that even though your first team was assigned to you, but in terms of what project you want to work on, you have a lot of flexibility to propose your own projects within your team. Even just 3 months in, I had a lot of input in our planning for the rest of the year on what we want to focus on given my knowledge of the product. Let's see. Ashley asked, what sort of coursework would you recommend for college students interested in becoming a PM? I think, as we mentioned in the slide, there's no set course that you have to take to be eligible for the program. We do require a few number of CS classes or equivalent technical experience to show that you have the background, the technical background for this program. Other than that, I think just take anything you're interested in, try out different internships and experiences on campus, be leaders of your club, and try TAing. Any of the things that we've suggested as an example would be helpful to applying for the program.
Yeah, I also thought that business and entrepreneurship type classes were interesting and kind of gave you a taste of that business world while you're taking your technical coursework.
Austin asks, what surprised you about the APM program compared to expectations before starting? For me, I think it really was the autonomy. Even with the internship, we kind of started week 1 of my APM internship. My manager asked, okay, we have this vague idea of what we want to do here. Can you make it happen in 12 weeks? And I asked, has someone set up a roadmap? Has someone have listed the features they want to build? My manager's like, no, that's all up to you. You're doing the research. You need to figure out, we know the mission, we know what we think we want to build, but all the details are up to you. I think I had an expectation that, that I would have a little more guardrails, and there definitely are guardrails in terms of your team is really accommodating, people are really there to support you and try to teach you as much as you need to know, but you have a lot of responsibility, and I think that was a big surprise in a good way.
Yeah, and what surprised me was that I thought, APM being the most junior PM, I would only have really small product, and I would just only work with a really small group of people. But as soon as I joined the team, I was actually added to all the PM leads meetings and meeting with eng leads and designer leads to talk about just the general broad direction of our product. And I was asked to present in front of our senior leaders within the first 2 months of my job. I was really surprised the trust and respect they gave all the APMs to treat us just like full-time or just as regular PMs and giving us the opportunity to present to leadership. It was really scary, but it was a great learning experience for me.
Yeah. So Marcelo asks, how do APMs do research? So it takes a couple of different forms. So we have UX researchers that work in the field and go do user interviews with people all around the world and to find out user habits, test out different UIs and new features and see how they'd respond. We also do a lot of data analysis at Google. So PMs will look through the logs, do queries and analysis, and try to use that to figure out what user behavior or needs are. Those are the kind of the two biggest ways that we do research.
Sola asked, what are some differences between a designer and an associate product manager? So I personally work with user experience designers, so we call them UX designers at Google. And she is more focused on understanding the user experience, working with researchers, as Scott mentioned, to collect user feedback, and then actually doing the design and mocking and speccing the product out. I work with her very closely on defining the product vision, but my role, I think, is more focused on writing the product requirements, communicating her designs with the engineers to make sure it's a feasible product, as well as just overall the direction of the product and the strategy of the product in the longer run. But I do see a lot of overlaps because, as Eric mentioned in the presentation, the PM job is basically to work on whatever the product is missing and to work with everyone in the product team to provide input to the product.
Last question is, what is something you wish you knew or wish you did when you were an undergraduate? I think for me, part of it is I wish I knew about this program maybe earlier. I guess I didn't learn much about even what being a product manager was until just right before my junior year when I was kind of applied to be a product manager. And so I definitely felt really flustered during the entire interview process. I think had I even just known about product management earlier, I'd have maybe understood a little more, done some research on, what are some of the things that product managers do day to day, what are some of the ways that they impact how products are made, the different companies they're at, et cetera.
Yeah, I think kind of the same thing for me. Just this is a really great opportunity with this live stream to set up and think about, if I want to be a PM, what can I do now to set myself up for success? So going over the things we talked about earlier about leadership and coursework to really set yourself up. So if you decide this is a career path you want to pursue, you're ready to do it.
All right, I think we're at time, so thank you guys so much for coming today, and we hope this is helpful to you and you've learned a little bit more about the APM program and the application process. As a reminder, the application closes on October 4th for the full-time program and October 14th for the internship program. So make sure you submit your resume and transcript before the deadline. Again, thank you so much for joining.